Alright, hey everybody, my name is Yyanthire. So I'm going to start working on the next mini-boss. This one's going to be the Flame Matosta, and more specific, Flame Matosta Surras. He's going to be a long-range caster just like the other Matostas are. However, he's going to be eventually situated all the way back in his little lair. You start to kind of pan over to it and start to talk about his design. So originally I had a lot of design where you could, like, the enemies would shoot from far away. So coming over here, so we can see this is the little Matosta's lair. You can come over through here, we got some Matostas here already. I'm going to set up a little scenario where you kind of come up through here, you kind of got to go around, and he's going to be situated right about here. However, he's going to be able to, as soon as you sort of come to this area, like to this little rock area, he's going to start shooting at you from there. So you got to kind of both dodge his spells and sort of make your way over to him. And then for each of these pathways, I'm going to do something unique here just to kind of make it interesting. So you have to kind of like fight your way to him, and then you got to go fight him himself. He's going to be like a high HP, but not really moving around too much kind of boss. So that's my current design. I'm going to go ahead and mock some stuff up and see what I come up with and go ahead and get to testing. Oh, and one quick thing, this mini-boss's reward is going to actually be a whole new disciple. So it's going to be a pretty important mini-boss to fight before you go and take on one of the main boss of the demo. So I think I landed on something pretty good for the Flame Matosta's spell. So what it's going to be is it's essentially just going to be a long-range spell. I haven't hooked it up for long range yet, but I just hooked it up to the disciple for testing purposes. It's going to be a long-range spell, and it's going to be essentially just like he casts it on your character's location, and then a bunch of spells kind of come down and rain down on you. As you can see here, it'll spawn all around, and then we'll just circle into that one little location. Cast it again. It's going to be a very slow spell cast, until of course he reaches his desperation phase. So as you can see, I think the distance is okay. That was a pretty close distance there, so you kind of got to be like on your toes and waiting to hear the audio cue. Hopefully you're picking up the audio cue as well. Every time it casts, it makes like a fireball spell. So I think this should be pretty good. Yeah, each of these fireballs is dealing about 30 damage, so if you get hit by all three, it's going to deal about 90 damage, which is almost going to kill a unit. Well, one adjustment I want to do is I want to make sure all the spells look a little bit different. Right now I'm just kind of reusing the same fireball asset, but I think for this one I want to switch it up and use at least some sort of different colors or something. Because right now it's pretty generic, so you're kind of just like, you see the fireball and you'll think it's like a different spell or maybe something else, but I want it to be something unique so that the player sees it and they're like, oh, this is a unique spell I haven't seen before. I don't know, maybe a long-range caster is casting it on me or something like that, which is the full intentional goal. Alright, so I added a cool startup sound effect, and then I also went ahead and changed the fireball graphical effects and particle effects and all that other fanciness. Let's check it on out. So the player's going to get that warning every time the Fire Matosta casts. As you can see, looking pretty nifty. I wanted like this like red and purple kind of theme just to kind of distinguish it, but still keep it mostly red for the fire look. Let's see if we can see some of them. Here we go. Alright, so I mocked up something that should be way cooler visually and also be significantly less confusing. I noticed that when I was trying out the Flame Matosta, his spells were kind of flying around everywhere and it just got really confusing. So I changed it around to make them all fall from the sky. I think that looks way cooler, and it's also more easier to kind of understand what's going on, so you'll be fighting around all the other enemies. And just some spells fall down from the sky, so you kind of gotta dodge them. So let's see, like, if characters like right here, and a spell came flying down on him, it's like, oh, gotta move real quick. So part of the reason for this change was that I didn't really like how the spells were sort of just like shooting around. Like I'll show you with the normal Mystic Bolt here. The spell just kind of flies and gets cast like that. So it's flying in the air and it's flying kind of slowly. I feel like it would kind of confuse players, and they'll think it's like if they touch that spell it'll hit them or something like that. But in reality it was only going to like a specific location. i.e. with this Mystic Bolt, it's only going to this specific spot, and it explodes and deals damage. But on the traveling part, it's not dealing any damage. And I feel like it kind of confused people in that way. Other things about it is, I feel like the one of the main mechanics of the programming behind this spell was all the spells would kind of like group up, or essentially they'll spawn in at a random distance and then fly towards the target. Sometimes this could actually spawn on top of the target or spawn like really close, and I feel like that would just give the player like no time at all to be able to try and dodge the spell, which would be pretty horrible gameplay, especially as you're like trying to fight your way through a specific area and then this boss is just like spawning spells on top of you and killing you for like no reason. It would be super annoying. Alright, so here's how Surras is currently looking. As you can see here, he's a pretty slow moving enemy, so he's just kind of in his normal lair, he's going to be attacking you from super far away, but for testing purposes I just have him at a closer distance, so he's just going to slowly creep towards you. When he gets out of range, he most likely won't be getting out of range unless you're trying to like pull him away from his lair and like cheese him or something like that, but that probably it's not too realistic to happen. He's pretty slow, so let's go ahead and when he gets in range, he's going to go ahead and cast. As you saw in the last clip, we have falling fireballs. Pretty cool. Gotta zoom out a little bit. Him overall, he's pretty weak in terms of killing him, essentially. The whole point of this boss is really just like a boss you have to fight throughout an area, so you're getting all these fireballs rained down on you while you're also having to fight a bunch of enemies. Let's go ahead and cast a few more spells. He has a ton of health. Kind of want to emphasize that he's going to be like guarded and stuff like that. See if I really like it. I want it to be more of like an instance where you can just kind of like use the new spell, the Lesser Fireball, and be able to kill him quickly. But with the Lesser Fireball only dealing about 3 times more damage, it's not going to be too much, but I think this should be okay. I'm just kind of like moving around. And I'll see. Deal about, since he has about 200 health, you deal about a very minimal percent with just the Mystic Bolt here. But it's definitely doable. You see I'm knocking off like 2% of his HP each time. And I think these falling fireballs are pretty good to dodge. I think they're pretty forgiving in a sense, and good for like one of these starter bosses. Move over here so I don't get hit. But yeah, this is pretty much going to be the entire actual fight. Of course, the real fight's getting to him, but let's go ahead and I'm going to put him in his area and kind of get him at least far casting. We can kind of do the little jaunt from the start of the area to his location and see how bad that is. So as you can see here, I moved him right here. This is going to be his little home, and if you remember from previous clips and videos, this whole little area over here is actually going to be the Matosta area. So you kind of come in through either here or through here. You got to fight a few enemies, and then the starting point of this this fight between Surras and you is probably going to be again about right here. I'll bump up his aggro range so it's covering a pretty good area. I don't want him to be able to be aggroed from over here, because that would be bad, but starting at about right here should be fine enough of a radius. Then you'll be essentially being able to choose between 2 paths. You either got to fight your way through this path or fight your way through that path, and all the while Surras is going to be aggroed onto you and casting fireballs at you the whole time. So I'll have to do some design for these areas, but let's go ahead and hop in game, and I'm going to kind of do the jaunt and just make sure that I have a good range on here, so you can kind of move from all the way over here. See how I feel about all this little movement section here. Alright, so here I am at that big rock, so let's go ahead and move forward a little bit. Actually, when you start to get about here, there it is, the first attack. So you can kind of run around either way. This one I'll show off the right side first, then I'll kind of come back around and show off the left side. As you can see, he's casting at you the whole time and whatnot. But let's go ahead and move back around. He doesn't move very fast, and he's just kind of, he's there, casting away. So let's go up the left path. There's no enemies yet, or any sort of obstacles or anything, but those will get added in later. You can see here, nice little Short little paths, nothing too crazy. It's like one of the first major enemies to begin with, but there he is, just casting away, kind of just hanging out. Let's go ahead and I kind of feel like dragging him. See if we can kind of make our way back here a little bit and see if we can drag him around. We should be able to still see him in the fog. As part of his design, he doesn't get disabled by all this fog like a normal enemy. So we can kind of just like run away and move back. Move the camera back over here. Let's see if he's coming. Not really. It seems more like he's just kind of like stuck, which I think is a good thing because I don't really want you to be able to just kind of like drag him out of the full area because that would be kind of both tedious and boring. But I think this is alright. So let me go ahead and I'm going to do some additional testing and start to set up some areas and test fighting them and all that kind of stuff. Alright, so I mocked up some of the level design I wanted to go for. So let's start on this side. On the right side, so we're going to take this path. We start to have some more, this is going to be like the enemy path, so it's just going to be filled with a bunch of enemies that you have to fight. And then of course on the other path I'm going to have more of a blocked off kind of path, so you can kind of pick whichever way you want. But on the enemy path, as you can see here, it starts off, you have a lesser Matosta and a lesser Arcoil over here, leading into another set, but this time 2 Arcoils, and then up here the same thing. So this just kind of like blocks everything off, so you kind of got to go up here, fight these ones, and then hopefully not aggro any of these ones, then go and fight those, and then do the same thing up here. So you kind of got to just basically just fight your way through this single path here. If you were to do some like dragging them out and some other kind of fanciness like that, you could probably kind of like move them out of the way, and then just sort of scoop in here and attack the boss. But for most players, they'll probably just go and fight all the enemies. And then of course back here is our boss, of course. I did a little bit more testing. I wanted to make sure he doesn't really move too much, and I just settled for just setting his movement speed to 0. So we'll test that out and see how I like it. But when I was testing other stuff out, before I had all this stuff in here, he would essentially like move out over here, because this seemed to be the shortest path for him to go. Then he'd kind of like, I'd show up at the boss room, I'm like, where's the boss at? It's like, oh, he's way over here, so I gotta go fight him over there. Moving into this other path, let's go ahead and move back over here. So going up the left path over here, as you can see, it's blocked off by some nature, and then you just have one enemy to fight, so you kind of gotta move in here, attack him, move around, kind of dodge his spells, or attack his nature blocking him right here. Either way. And then move up here, set up 2 nature blocking them off again, but this time there's 2 enemies, and as soon as you get up here, there's a hidden enemy ready to attack you here too, so you may have to either pick him off or leave it blocked off and just kind of like fight your way through these little natures right here, and then just go into the boss and ignore him. It's all really up to the player and how they feel like fighting it. But that's the current area design. I'll have to play around with it and see how much I like it. But I think it should be alright. I think as soon as the player starts to show up here around this rock area, they're going to start to hear the sound effects of the boss attacking him. They're going to be like, what's that? And then they're going to see some fireballs rain down on their head, and they gotta move real fast. And they'll kind of just either pick one of the 2 directions. I feel like a lot of players, since this enemy is a little bit more forward, they might start to be like, oh, here's an enemy right here, I'm just going to go fight him. And then they'll kind of progress up this path. But this path is just here for much less fighting. Because I feel like with these over here, you can almost, since they're kind of grouped up, you can almost hit them with a single spell, like if you aimed it right there. That's my current intention, at least. But now it's all up to playing it and trying it out.